and welcome to another edition of TED Excellence, the show in which I find out about love American style, truer than the red, white, and blue. And I come to you live from my Corona bunker on the moon with Dogcat Fox, a Pepperjack, and all of you. Hello, everyone. Welcome to Thursday. Tumultuous Thursday. Yes, back once again to the wonderful world of TEDx and learning more about our feelings or something. I'm not quite sure yet. As has happened before, I have been taken in by the simple title of this presentation. I love you, but you're being gross. I haven't watched this. I have not read anything on it. Just saw the title. I was like, okay. I have a prediction, however. I'm happy being wrong. I predict that somewhere in this, there's going to be some story from childhood where some girl told this guy, or I mean, in the day we live in, someone this person was in love with or had a crush on said that to them in elementary school or something. And somehow that became the sort of hallmark of their personal perspective on romance. That's my guess. I'm happy to be wrong. But that title is just so mysterious and weird. I guess we'll find out together. And who is joining me to find out what it means to be both in love, but also be gross? Jaeger Pony, hello. Corey Suzuki, hello. Hammond Beans, hello. Humble Clay, hello. Swirl Blue, hello. Jamie Melquist, hello. Devil Fruit Zero, hello. John Miller, hello. Spud Gun, hello. Zeke Weiss, hello. Devil Fruit Zero, I already said that. You get twice. You get a twofer. You get double dipped. Yeah. Check Your Logic, hello. Keeverdam, hello. And thank you so much for posting my Scribe Store. Debatefly, hello. Bridget Beardjidge, hello. Non-Vitae Rex, hello. Mike Savage. Blard. Brittany Holland, hello. Lexi Mads, you're here. We can start. Ryan R, hello. The Original Shroom, hello. Megan Ring, hello. No Name, hello. Raziel, hello. Gunfox61, hello. Did I miss anybody? Probably. But either way. Robert Pincus, hello. Hans Strong, hello. Hans und Franz. All right, so bingo card. Today's bingo card is bingo card A. A as in alcohol, per the poll on Twitter. If you'd like to participate in selecting the bingo card for a TED Excellence, well, just follow me on Twitter. You can see it down in the corner there on the screen or find the link in the description. And a link to the bingo cards is also in the description as well. So get your bingo card A ready, and we'll be ready to go in a second. I always forget to mention this, but I'm going to do it now. If you share the link to an oncoming TED Excellence on Twitter specifically, please be sure to tag me in it so I know that you've done so I can thank you personally, because I really do appreciate that. Also, another note, per a poll I put up on Twitter the other day, and I'll be announcing this several times before the end of the month. After Lords of the Night concludes on August 24th, the following TED Excellence, and unless something changes, the TED Excellences in the future of that week, I will be moving my time slot to 6 p.m. Pacific, 9 p.m. Eastern for TED Excellence on Thursdays. So the noon TED Excellences will cease the week of the 24th and will begin anew as an evening show. Hopefully this means more people can attend, as I understand that this is kind of an odd hour for these to be attended live, but that is upcoming. Just a note for the future. I'll repeat it again as time goes on. But all of that being said, let's find out what we can learn from I love you, but you're being gross. Clocks in at just under 15 minutes. I'll start off with a few seconds for sound test. You guys tell me if you can hear it, and then we will proceed.
Nine months ago, I sat in an emergency room on suicide watch.
Okay, well, that's a downbeat opening. You guys hear that? Let me know if that works for you, at least as far as sound, not as far as content thus far. Loud and clear, says Leo Prime. It's good, says Corn Pop. Prony Maloney. Hello. All right. So you're in an emergency room on suicide watch. I was hoping to get some lighthearted entertainment out of this one, given the news of the week, but okay.
I felt numb to everything except for the weight of loneliness.
Oh, boy.
I had no idea why I felt this way.
Okay.
Or why everybody around me said that I was toxic.
Toxic. That's a loaded word these days. Okay.
Without knowing it at the time, I was the living, breathing definition of toxic masculinity.
Okay, the only thing that might save this, and it's a thin hope, is that he might actually go into the idea that the idea itself of toxic masculinity is poison to the self-esteem and self-image of men. That the constant refrain of being male is inherently bad can have an effect on one's, sense of happiness in life over something they have no control over. So maybe he's going to be pushing back against the idea of toxic masculinity, back against the idea of original sin based on genitalia, right? Really? Hopefully? Maybe?
I grew up sheltered in Mitchellville, Iowa. I went to church, school, and worked on the farm.
All right, over to the bingo card. We have, whoops, if I didn't close it off. First off, free space, circling that one, and childhood or family anecdote, circling that one. Proceed.
Although mom and dad in the front row might argue about how much work was actually done. my whole life changed when I picked up a basketball for the first time.
Okay. Well, I guess we'll find out about that in a second. But before then, thank you, John Miller. Less than 10 seconds in, there is no saving this. Hope springs eternal. Hope springs eternal. And we're in Des Moines. I don't know what that means.
To be honest, I hate sports.
Okay.
I never enjoyed playing or watching them, but my family didn't have money growing up, and I knew that if I wanted to go to college, I'd have to find a way to pay for it.
Okay.
And I found out by complete accident that apparently you can get your college paid for by the game of basketball. And I was watching Michael Jordan's last game. I was 7 years old, and the salaries of the players popped up on the screen. And I turned to my dad, and I'm like, Pops, why do these dudes make so much money?
You found out by accident? I don't think it was that much of a hidden secret or something that sports scholarships were a thing, but okay.
And he said because they were good at basketball. And I saw this silly game as an opportunity to rewrite my story, to get out of it.
Okay, I don't usually, unless it becomes relevant to the presentation somehow, comment on the physical appearance of the speakers. But that guy has, maybe it's just the perspective, but that guy has got one long foot there. So maybe that allowed him to propel himself a little bit more in basketball. I don't know. Or maybe I just have a skewed idea of the normal length of a foot in proportion to someone's body. But, it makes me think a little bit of like clown shoes, honestly.
Mitchellville. So I started going to basketball camps. I tried out for travel teams and spent an insane amount of time trying to dunk a basketball like Mike. By the time I was in 8th grade, I was recruited on a national level. I became obsessed with the game, and it was really easy to hide behind that number 4 jersey.
Hide behind that number 4 jersey. Okay.
Deep down, I knew that I was a bisexual boy who was terrified of anyone finding out that I was bisexual and hated sports. So I covered it up with what I perceived to be masculine traits.
So were the masculine traits themselves toxic, or was your sense of needing to pretend to others and effectively lie about your true self, was the deception the toxicity there, or was it the masculine traits? And just to clarify, I have sympathy for this guy in the sense that back when he was growing up, which wasn't that long ago, which is amazingly enough, and especially in the part of the country that he grew up in, I can imagine that feeling the way he felt and being the way that he wasn't something that would have been safe or comfortable to be honest about. I can believe it. So I can believe he was living under a cloud for the better part of his majority of his growing up. So sympathy there. But I have to ask the question, is it masculinity or was it the sense of needing to be deceptive that was toxic in this equation? Thank you, tall person. Hoy! Can't watch live. We'll watch in full later. Happy Green Peppers Day. Green peppers. I don't have a joke for that. So thank you, tall person. If I had a joke for that, I'd be a better comedian.
I wanted to be just like the other good basketball players, so I studied them.
All right. Well, I mean, he said he was like 18 or something at this point, right? So, I don't understand how your sexuality has anything to do with your performance as a basketball player. I'm not quite sure the relevance of that. But the fact that you hated sports but threw yourself into something that you hate, I mean, that's got to suck too. So on top of the fact that you were hiding your true self from your family, friends, and elsewise, and you were doing something you didn't enjoy, that combination in and of itself, I think, is probably toxic. No need to append masculinity to it.
I saw how they acted, and then I mirrored their behaviors. I tried my best to grow a beard, wore as much Nike and Jordan as I could, and even like serial dated girls, all in hopes of masking my bisexuality.
If you're bisexual, dating girls makes sense. I mean, except for the fact that I guess you can't indulge in the other half of your makeup, but okay. Thank you, Chicago Mike. Have 10 minutes left on. Hope everyone has a great day. Also, hi, Scribe. Hi, Mike. Mike, let me know if that 6 p.m. Pacific, 9 p.m. Eastern time slot will work better for you on a Thursday. Because I get that I'm, sort of doing this when people are taking lunch or have other things going on. So hopefully it'll free things up for a lot of people by the time we get there. And it'll come on here saying, Chicago Mike again on lunch. Okay. 10 minutes left on lunch. Okay. Well, I figured on the ability to be here. So yes, thank you, Mike. All right. So anyway, you faked it until you made it, and you unfortunately had to date girls, which wasn't somehow against your entire nature because you say you're bisexual. So, okay. But all the same, yes, you had to hide your other desires. Yes.
In the process of hiding my identity, I lost myself.
Okay.
My behavior started to shift when I was a junior in high school.
Uh-huh.
I started disrespecting everyone around me. I was a good enough athlete that I saw nothing wrong with how I was acting. And honestly, in my perception, I was rewarded for it. I was all state. I was setting records. I was in the paper. I had made a name for myself.
Are you sure that you were acting out and treating people lousy because you were hiding your true identity, or you were just an arrogant jock? I have to ask because there are a lot of components going on here that don't necessarily mesh together the way he's laying them out.
But nobody ever talked about like the real Scott. They only talked about number 4 because that's all I let them see.
Right. So, I mean, it's an understandable you problem, but it's still a you problem.
I accepted a scholarship to the University at Albany in New York.
Wow.
Getting out of Iowa sounded like a dream to me.
Uh-huh.
And it was a dream until right before I left, I received a call from my girlfriend at the time.
Uh-huh.
She told me that she was pregnant.
Whoops.
I remember that call. We were scared out of our minds.
Mm-hmm.
In my mind, I had to maintain this profile of masculinity, so I acted strong.
Acting strong in a crisis, you would have preferred to what? Break down into a quivering pile of jelly? Would that have been a better? Yeah, acting strong, evil masculinity.
In hindsight, I acted like I didn't care.
Oh, well, now that's a you problem, isn't it?
I did care, but I was filled with so much fear.
Uh-huh, and so was she.
And I couldn't let anyone see that emotion. My perception of what it meant to be a man was that vulnerability equaled weak.
And that is your perception. Again, as much empathy as I can have for somebody having to suppress elements of themselves that were not fashionable, let's say, or acceptable back in the day, this all still reduces down to you making choices.
So I suppressed anything that would make me appear as weak.
Which isn't inherently masculine, but your concept of it. You're so scared that you decided to overcorrect. And again, that's a you problem.
I didn't tell my parents, my brothers, my friends.
You didn't tell them about the pregnancy, or you didn't tell them about your fear?
It was a dark secret that I just wanted to go away. I called one of my coaches and told him. He said that having a child would be harmful to my basketball career.
Well, I'm glad to see the coach had his priorities in mind. So you kept that from your family. That is not an artifact of imposed masculinity or perceived masculinity. That's just being a liar.
And while the decision was hers and hers alone to make, it was pretty clear coming from an adult the advice that we should take, and we knew no better.
Well, if you only went to your coach, what do you think his priority would be? What? Thank you, Lady Gopher, for the dancing, smiley, Dogcat Fox. Oh, Dogcat Fox. Wowie, wow, wow. Dogcat Fox says hello. Thank you, Lady Gopher. Okay, so you kept this secret from your family, and the first and only adult you went to was your coach. And surprisingly enough, your coach had a concern about your basketball career, the career that you had in front of you for your future, your scholarship, and everything else. Okay, and then?
She drove to Missouri with money that I stole from my parents.
Okay, so you were a basketball superstar in high school. You treated everybody else around you like garbage. You got a girl pregnant. You lied to your family and friends about it by omission, if nothing else. And then you stole money from your parents. I hate to tell you this, your sexuality has absolutely nothing to do with this. Absolutely nothing to do with this. If this is where we're going, if you're pinning all of these bad acts on your struggles with your sexuality or your sexual identity, that is not an escape hatch for any of it. All right, let me go over the bingo card real quick just to make sure I haven't missed something. Collectivize his own demographic. Now he's spoke about himself pretty much. Systemic institutional. I could make a stretch and say that his decisions about suppressing certain aspects of himself are a result of, the expectations of society / systems and but I'm going to wait on that. Sales pitch for product or service. No, not yet. Diversity, equity, inclusion. Not yet. Plays victim. Oh, yes. Oh, yes. I'm sorry. Taking all these individual decisions, which have absolutely nothing to do with your suppressed sexuality. No. Yeah, you don't. No, sorry. Microaggressions, unconscious bias. Not yet per se. Privilege, hasn't mentioned it. Contradicts own point or argument. I'm honestly not sure what the argument is yet. I guess we'll find out. Patriarchy, no. Weightless example. I could list off several of the things he said so far that he's been blaming on his personal struggles, but I'm going to wait on that. So it'll probably be circled by the end of it. Wage gap, no. Feminism, no. Marginalization, no. A list. I mean, he listed off the things that he did when he was a kid on the farm and all that. So yeah, I'll give it that one. White supremacy, no. Word salad, no. Self-vilification or wretchedness. Yeah, at the beginning when he says, I was so toxic, this, that, and the other. Yeah. Make something about race, sex, etc. for no reason. Well, so far, he's made all of his personal decisions about suppressing his internal strife. I mean, it's not for no reason, technically. He's trying to make an excuse for himself, but we'll see. Attempt to coin new buzzword, buzz phrase, not yet. Mind reading assumes motives, not yet specifically. Benevolent condescension, not yet. Anecdote that probably never happened. No, I can believe it. All these, it's something against that square when somebody lists off a whole bunch of things that they did that do not put a good shine on themselves. So far, I can believe all of his anecdotes and leaves out vital context. Not yet. So for reference, I've got childhood or family anecdote, plays victim, free space, a list, and self-vilification or wretchedness, and a couple in there pending. So let's proceed.
She had an abortion.
Oh, okay.
I felt so much guilt.
Yeah.
I was living a lie. I was so afraid of being exposed for being bisexual, for hating sports, for being smart.
None of you were afraid of being exposed for being smart? What? None of that has anything to do with your girlfriend getting knocked up and having an abortion and you feeling guilty over it. What? Oh boy. Okay.
And my toxic masculine behavior had reached a point where my fear had taken priority over a child's life.
Well, as you said, it was not your choice. She elected to have an abortion. Unless, and maybe there's something missing here, unless you had some role in nudging her to that decision. I mean, you did pay for it. You stole money, so you wanted it to happen. This is a part that you took part. This is an event you took part in, right? So you're not blameless in that, obviously, if you're feeling guilt about it. So, but none of this can be set off on, oh, I was just trying to be a man. I wouldn't have done any of these things if I hadn't been pretending to be a man. That is absolute nonsense.
I didn't know how to process or communicate what I was feeling.
That has nothing to... Well, if you didn't know how to do that, was that because you're inherently flawed or because you're pretending to be a man? Or because you're just a person who doesn't know how to communicate emotionally like a lot of people do? Where is the line drawn between what you were imposing on yourself or you felt society was forcing you to do, and where is your culpability? Thank you, Mr. Tickle Trunk, for the how's it going, Dogcat Fox? Oh, I don't know. How is it going?
Wowie, wow, wow.
It goes all right. Thank you, Mr. Tickle Trunk.
My response became substances or running away. I moved to New York, dropped out after 3 days.
And it was because you were hiding your bisexuality?
I know that we need to be statistically correct on stages like this, but that has to be one of the shortest lived Division I basketball careers out there. And so I moved back to Mitchellville because it felt safe, and I needed to feel safe at that point in time.
Wait, you needed to feel safe by going back to the place and the environment where you were forced to cover up who you really were and indulge in toxic masculinity? Okay.
And after a few months of working at a car shop in Mitchellville, I received a call from Marty Bell, the head coach at Quincy University. Said a player on his team quit in the preseason and he had a scholarship for me. Literally anything in the world sounded better than sandblasting rust off of cars for minimum wage.
Except that you had that opportunity and you squandered it in New York. It is a miracle that someone came along and handed you a second chance.
So I moved to Quincy. My act followed me and just continued to get worse.
Uh-huh.
I was trying to numb my pain, to cover up what I was feeling inside, to stay hidden behind that number 4 jersey. My time at QU can pretty well be summed up by several points: drinking, drugs, sex, stealing.
And all of this is because you were struggling with your sexuality. You know, I really do hope, I've got my fingers crossed that somewhere in here he is going to take responsibility for his own actions and not entirely shuffle them off onto the idea that he was a victim of a toxic masculine ideal.
I was broken. No one knew the real me.
Are you sure about that? Because I see a long-standing pattern forming here from your own story.
I didn't even know myself. I'd reached a dark place where I stopped caring about everything. I started shoplifting on a regular basis. I was drinking during class to get through the day.
And all of these things are obviously examples of how men are supposed to act, as we all know.
And I was crying myself to sleep almost every night. I wish this is the part of the story where it gets better, but it didn't.
Uh-huh.
In April of my sophomore year at QU, I was arrested on felony retail theft and aggravated battery charges.
Jesus. I wish StreamYard had the ability to just play like background sound effects or something, because this is where I'd be inserting sort of Sinatra's car crash sound. All right. Yes, you made a number of very, very bad choices all the way through your scholastic career. And
I was 20 years old.
uh-huh.
Mom taught me how to be smart, but I walked into Quincy Walmart wearing a QU basketball shirt as if in 2014, the Quincy Police Department didn't have the capability of like Google searching QU basketball and like see me on the website.
So you're upset that you got caught. What?
So my friends start calling me, like the cops are on campus. I had to turn myself in, and I spent 3 days in jail. It broke me.
Oh, that broke you? Okay. I thought you were, never mind. I thought he was broken before this.
This was a wake-up call. You know, I made some real superficial, like fake level changes in my life. I did everything I could to just be this clean-cut model citizen.
When? Wait. When was this? After this? Because before this, you were anything but clean-cut model citizen if you were drinking, doing drugs, stealing from your parents and elsewise. What?
I was lying my face off.
Yes, and you had been. And not just to yourself. It'd be one thing if you were just constantly lying to yourself, right? It would be one thing. But you weren't just lying to yourself. You were lying to those around you about things that had nothing to do with yourself. You were stealing from people. You were squandering the opportunities that came to you. And by the grace of some luck, you got a second chance and you decided to try to screw that up too. Where are we going with all of this?
I was a fraud. Now that basketball was done, I was hiding behind a new costume of public speaking.
What?
I would travel all over the state of Iowa speaking. I would share my story of how I made all of these positive changes in my life. I was lying my face off behind closed doors. I would realize that I needed to listen to the words that I was giving other people.
You know, you're not doing yourself any favors here, either as someone who's credible or as someone who's taking responsibility for their actions. Because it sure sounds like you're trying to dodge that. But there's still we're only halfway through this, so who knows where we're going.
And I was disgusted with myself, but instead of changing my behavior, I just blamed everyone around me. Of course, nothing could ever be my fault.
Okay, all right. Okay, at the midway point. Okay. Now, you can understand my skepticism till now, but maybe we're getting to the meat of it.
All of my feelings of depression, anxiety, and guilt were centered around being closeted.
Okay.
All of these emotions that I had suppressed for 27 years finally got too heavy. I completely isolated myself from the world, and the loneliness grew to a dark place mentally.
It still does not sound like you're taking responsibility for your actions. It still sounds like you're trying to blame your internal struggle for the harm you did to others that had nothing to do with your internal struggle.
I wanted to kill myself.
Uh-huh.
Lying in that emergency room bed, I was faced with a decision. I could either be honest with myself and others about who I really am, or I could continue hurting and projecting that hurt on everyone around me. And I chose to feel better. After checking out of the emergency room, I signed up for therapy, got on some antidepressants, and started being purely vulnerable with those around me.
Which obviously men without your struggle have no ability to do, or something. I mean, okay, if you turned your life around completely after you hit bottom, because, you know, trying to kill yourself is about as rock bottom as you can get, well then, kudos to you. Yet it still doesn't sound like you're taking responsibility for your decisions. You're trying to blame it, either internally or otherwise, on something that still doesn't make any sense.
I came out as bisexual the week after.
Okay.
It felt like I let out a breath that I'd been holding my entire life.
So basically you wanted to date and have sex with men, but you couldn't, in addition to women. Okay. I mean, good for you. It would have been a more touching story if it hadn't been preceded by theft and assault and self-abuse and treating people badly, but okay.
While I'm new to this whole journey of loving myself, like I'm getting better at it every single day. One of my favorite ways to manage the hard days is by writing poetry, and I wrote this a while back.
Oh boy.
When we refuse to learn, we refuse to grow. When we choose to learn, we choose to grow.
If you do not master your anger, then your anger will become your master. Yeah.
And this growth showed me how to love my genuine self. Prior to therapy, I didn't know what toxic masculinity meant.
And now you do. And now it explains everything for you in hindsight. Okay.
And then I learned. My Islam in the New York Times lists the traits of toxic masculinity as suppressing emotion.
Suppressing emotion. Okay. Do men suppress emotions or do they manage emotions? Is stoicism the suppression of emotion?
Or masking distress? Check.
Masking distress. Again, is knowing when to be emotional as a productive activity a bad thing? I mean, freaking out in a crisis, what does that do to solve the crisis? Most of the time, nothing. So if I am in control of my emotions, and I set them aside in favor of solving the problem in front of me rather than have my emotions overtake me, is that a bad thing?
Maintaining an appearance of hardness. Check.
Well, I guess it depends on what you mean by hardness, but maintaining an appearance of hardness. What do you mean by hardness? Are you talking about like meanness, or just, again, stoicism, or? And honestly, the adjective of hardness did not occur to me looking at you as you comport yourself now, but if you say so.
And violence as an indicator of power.
Oh, no. Violence as an indicator of power. Yes, because as we know, there has never been a time or a place in human history that any woman has engaged in violence as an indicator of power. And all men are violent. All men are emotionless. All men are just blocks of stone that move through the world, knocking down everything in their way, as we know.
Check. I checked all the boxes.
Yeah, it's something else when you spend most of your life hating yourself, and then somebody comes along and says, oh, it's not your fault. You are a victim of society's expectations of you for these elements, which are totally not your responsibility. I had hope there for a second that's not where you were going, but it sure sounds like that's where you're going.
But instead of guilting or shaming myself, I decided to have a conversation with myself in the bathroom mirror.
Aha.
That conversation started with, hey, dude, like, I love you, but you're being gross.
Oh, shucks. You know, at this point, I'd figured that my theory at the beginning of this was not going to be the correct one, but still disappointed.
And I had finally reached a place in my acceptance where I realized that my problems weren't anyone else's fault. My problems weren't toxic masculinity's fault.
Well, you're sure not expressing that very clearly here. So, are you taking responsibility for your actions regardless of your personal struggles that you're now blaming them on?
My problems were my fault.
Yes.
And were a result of me projecting my insecurities about being bisexual onto other people.
Okay. I mean, then why are you bringing up the whole toxic masculinity thing? If this is you coming to terms with the fuel for your actions in the past and taking responsibility for them, why are you looking at the scapegoat of toxic masculinity to explain and or excuse your actions and behaviors?
I finally faced what I was running from.
Did you?
Myself.
Uh-huh.
After all, you can't outrun your shadow. So why not get to know your shadow a little bit better?
Uh-huh.
As I got to know myself better, I started to write.
Uh-huh.
Whenever I would feel sad, depressed, anxious, or stressed, I would write down what I was feeling.
Wow. As we know, no men ever do that. Toxic masculinity prevents them from writing down things about how they're feeling. That's why there are no male poets, male psychologists, male journalists, wait.
And then I started noticing patterns.
Oh.
And once I noticed patterns, I would think about what was causing them. And then, guess what? Crack the code. Now I'm much more capable of thinking about, processing, and communicating what I'm feeling to other people.
Yes. And as we know, it is impossible for quote unquote regular men to do this. That being said, again, credit where credit is due. Self-reflection and introspection is not a common art amongst people. So in that regard, kudos, I suppose. But did you stop to think about all this self-reflection and say, None of this has to do with toxic masculinity. This was all just me being uncertain about who I was and how I felt and so on. Why bring up toxic masculinity if this is a confession of personal responsibility?
And it's important to note that I didn't just come up with these tools to process emotion in healthy ways. It took work, hard work, sometimes really, really uncomfortable work.
Uh-huh.
But it taught me how to be comfortable in my own skin.
Yeah.
My first week of therapy is literally the best example of getting out of my comfort zone. My therapist most likely got tired of hearing me complain that I had nothing to do for fun.
I think I'd be tired of listening to you complain about how you're so terrible, but it's not really your fault. Pretty quick, too.
I'd spent so much of my life doing something that I didn't love doing that at 27 years old, I genuinely did not know what my hobbies were.
I hate to tell you this, you're not special in that regard.
And of course, that was not a good enough excuse for her. So she's like, what's something that you enjoy doing? And I'm like, well, I just got a new iPhone. My old one got stolen at Jordan Creek Mall at the food court last week. So like, I've enjoyed taking pictures on this new iPhone. And she's like, go buy a real camera.
So this is a photographer's origin story.
Next morning, pull up West Du Bois, like buy a Canon T6i. I'd never shot with a camera before. And I had a blast on my first day of shooting. I walked over 12 miles throughout Des Moines, just taking pictures and having conversations with strangers. But there was one interaction that left a permanent mark on me.
Oh gosh, I don't know. What is it going to be? Did you meet? I don't know. Tell me it was a celebrity. I don't know who is. I'm sure there are celebrities that live in Iowa, aside from, James T. Kirk.
I was wheeling down a grocery cart full of some stuff for the houseless homies, and I met a man named Hector. He told me that he was a boxer from Philly, and that life brought him to Des Moines, and he's sleeping on the street.
Uh-huh.
He took one look at my camera and asked if I was any good, so I took his picture and asked for his opinion. He gave me a hug, and through his tears, he said that interaction made him feel more human again.
Okay. So you met a homeless stranger on the street, and after taking his picture, he hugged you and cried, and he felt human again. Yeah, I'm seeing several X's in the chat right now. Let's let this play out.
And I will never forget the next line out of his mouth. He said, "You should give these away for one hug, bro."
No. Nope. Even if there are elements that are true, that just sounds, no. Anecdote that probably never happened, circling that one. No.
And that inspired me to start giving away photo shoots for one hug.
So, in return for an intimate physical favor,
And in a way, photography truly has helped save my life.
Photography has. Not self-reflection, introspection, and honesty. Not therapy. Okay?
It helps me see the beauty in everything.
Uh-huh.
Things that I would otherwise miss.
Uh-huh.
Almost like I'm looking through a different lens.
Oh, different lens. Thank you, John Miller. Pics or didn't happen. Now, I imagine this guy's got an Instagram or something somewhere of just an absolute photo album of different people he's taken pictures of. I can believe that that's possible. I'm just not quite sure that story or that interaction makes a whole lot of sense.
It introduced me to new friends,
Uh-huh.
some of which I see here today.
Uh-huh.
They hold me accountable. They believe in me and they love me and I love them.
They hold you accountable for what? I thought you'd cured yourself of all your bad habits. What are they holding you accountable for?
My life has certainly been a wild ride, but
of self-imposed and self-chosen hardship, yeah.
Everything got much more simple when I realized that I was in charge of my own amusement park.
This is after you continually indulged in sex, drugs, rock and roll, and theft? Okay.
My hope for this community is that we gain a greater understanding of what toxic masculinity is.
No. You don't get to keep coming back to this. You don't get to preach about personal responsibility and self-discovery and everything, and then every 5 minutes lean back on toxic masculinity as though either you are taking responsibility for your actions or you are blaming society's expectations of men for your actions. You cannot have it both ways. And nothing you have described insofar as masculine traits makes any sense when put up next to reality. Someone gave you an excuse to run away from taking responsibility. Someone gave you an escape hatch and you chose to take it. Going back to the bingo card, contradicts own point or argument. Yeah, no, you don't get to, no. Either this is a journey of self-discovery or this is a journey of shrugging off your responsibilities.
As men, we have a responsibility to be aware of our emotions while also being aware of how we project those emotions onto other people.
Yes, because we as men, collectivize his own demographic, circling that one. Yes, we as men don't know how to do that. If you are a man that is not this man, you do not understand the power of your emotions, the depth of your emotions, when and when not to express your emotions. No. Our speaker here, who spent the majority of his growing up being confused about his own truth, knows the truth about being a real man and will condemn all men for being inherently flawed in the process. Got it.
And here's a crazy idea, like maybe we hold each other accountable on these things as men, like we would hold each other accountable to pull up at the barbershop or pull up at the gym or pull up at the Y to play some hoops. Like crazy idea, but I think it might work.
What? Hold. Wait. I gotta back up. Hold men accountable for the barbershop? What?
While also being aware of how we project those emotions onto other people. And here's a crazy idea, like maybe we hold each other accountable on these things as men, like we would hold each other accountable to pull up at the barbershop.
Hold each other accountable to pull up to the barbershop.
Or pull up at the gym.
Or pull up at the gym.
Or pull up at the Y to play some hoops.
Or pull up at the Y to play some... What? Is this an Iowa thing? Yeah, no, Keeverdam's got it. That is word salad city right there. Absolutely and totally. That makes absolutely no sense. Women don't go to the barbershop? What? Women don't go to the Y? Women don't go to the gym? What are you talking about?
Like crazy idea, but I think it might work. Thank you.
What?
I've been a lot of things in my life.
Yeah.
A convict.
Yeah.
College athlete. College dropout. College educator. Shout out DMU. You know, y'all changed my life.
Oh, now you're an educator? Okay. I wonder how you wait, college edu. No, never mind.
And even in December, I finished a 4.0 Master's in Education program.
Well, congratulations on that. Not knowing what school or what you had to go through, but hey, you furthered your education. Okay. Yeah, pause for applause.
But my favorite thing is being able to look myself in the mirror, stare toxic masculinity right in the eye and say, I love you, but you're being gross.
What? What is that? What the fuck is that?
No, 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 no. No. Okay. Let us go to the bingo card. And yes, I'll try to remember to circle the whole card at the end because this is a WTF. Because no, the whole premise makes no sense at all. Okay, let me make sure I got the bingo card updated here. This is where I am at right now on the bingo card. I'm going to have to shrink that down a little bit for clarity. Okay, so if you got your bingo cards out, guys, I'm going to go over it one more time, and then I will take suggestions or arguments for squares to be circled. Systemic institutional. I mean, he talked about colleges and stuff, but was systemic or institutional part of his presentation or anything else? I'm going to circle it for the whole society's expectation of men theme. I'm going to circle it for that one. So let me update that there. Okay. Sales pitch for product or service. No, even though he mentioned Walmart and he talked about him being a teacher, there was no sales pitch here. There was no book or organization or anything like that. Diversity, equity, and inclusion. I mean, in the abstract, sort of, but he never dwelled on the acceptance of his sexuality or anything else. It was all sort of internal, personal stuff. So I'm a little hesitant to circle that one. Microaggressions, unconscious bias. You know, again, except for his own internal struggle, he never really talked about anyone else's like reaction to his coming out or anything that he did growing up that somehow discouraged him. It was all just sort of this belief that he was wrong for feeling the way that he felt and being unable to date men. But anyway, privilege. I never talked about that really. Not that I can think of. Patriarchy. You know, he talked about masculinity, but he did not talk about power structures in regards to men. If he brought up that, you know, men make all the decisions or something like that, then maybe, but he never crossed that line. Weightless example. Yeah, just about everything he gave as far as his decisions, and especially the whole abortion thing, as though that were just some artifact of being a man. Yeah, no, that doesn't wash. And the theft and everything else, that's got nothing to do with nothing. Your projecting your self-hatred does not equate to I'm going to go along with an abortion and or I'm going to steal things and or I'm going to assault somebody. No. Feminism. No. And if there's an argument to be made, it's going to have to be a really good one because that is right now the only bingo square we have in front of us. Marginalization. Did he ever talk about that? I mean, he felt that way, obviously, and his way of feeling was something on the fringe of acceptability back when he was a kid. Okay, I'll circle that one. I will circle that one in aggregate, and it's not currently in danger of being a bingo square. And guys, if you have arguments for squares to be circled, please hold on to them for just a second. Once I get through the card, I'll ask for them. And when you do put them up, be sure to tag me in it so I can see it in the chat. White supremacy. Nope, he never brought up race. I was kind of surprised, honestly. Make something about race, sex, etc. for no reason. Toxic masculinity. Toxic masculinity was brought up for absolutely no reason. You could have taken every comment of toxic masculinity out of this, and you would have had, well, not a very good presentation or argument towards personal responsibility, but it would have been at least more acceptable intellectually. Let's put it that way. So circle in that one. Attempt to coin new buzzword, buzz phrase. No, he didn't bring up anything new as far as I can tell. Mind reading assumes motives. I mean, I could go very sort of meta on this and say that he was assuming his own motives for his behavior he could blame on toxic masculinity. It's kind of a reverse thing, but I'm not sure about that one. I'll see if somebody in the chat has a better talk on that. Benevolent condescension. Yeah. We as men, this, that, and the other, men are just evil. We have to change. We have to do this at the barber shop. Yeah. Circle in that one. And lastly, leaves out vital context. Vital context. Was there anything that I felt like he left out vital context? Well, the one thing that I'm surprised he never brought up, and this isn't really leaving out vital context, I was just sort of bewildered. If the struggle in his life was his bisexuality, and he felt safe, societally acceptable-wise, to date women in that regard, well, then he was satisfying part of his natural instincts. I'm surprised that he never brought up any relationships or experiences, even abstractly, with men after he'd come to terms with and been honest about his desires. And that's not really leaving out vital context of a story or an argument or something. I was just kind of surprised that if that was the great driver of all of his pent-up shame and anger and everything else, that never came about as sort of a contrast, you know, or a revelation of some kind. So, but I don't know if that quite fits the square. That was just something that occurred to me as I was watching this. Okay, so that is the bingo card as I have it. We don't have any bingos yet. We are close to one or two. And I will now take arguments for squares to be circled. Be sure to tag me in your arguments so I can make sure. Spud Gun, this guy has never blown another dude in his life. I have no idea. I'm not going to dwell on that one. Let's see. Bridget, feminism because toxic masculinity is a concept created and used by third and fourth wave feminists. Oh. You got me there. I'm surprised. I'm surprised I didn't think of that one.
Bingo.
What?
Of course!
So good job, Bridget, and anyone else who made the same suggestion. I just missed it. Good job. We have our first bingo. All right, continuing to take suggestions. Let's see. Let's see. Megan Ring, Scribelight, he assumed the motive of every man by saying that toxic masculinity was to blame for their bad behavior, any bad behavior. Oh, yeah, no, that's a good one. Okay, yep. Fair enough. Fair enough. All right, let me save that there and refresh here. Okay. All right, we're making some more progress. Thank you, Megan. Let's see, chat jumped, so if I missed your argument, post it again. Let's see, some emulation also says anti-toxic masculinity equals feminism. Yeah, that's true. Let's see, local super. John Miller, did he ever bring up his folks? That context usually is why they had to hide their biness. He mentioned his folks are in the audience. Again, aside from coming out to his family and saying that he lied to them about the pregnancy, he never really talked about like what was the aftermath of coming out to his parents Did he pursue anything now that he felt more free in relationships and otherwise? Like I say, I'm not saying it's leaving out vital context. It's not necessarily vital to the presentation. It was just sort of a curiosity to me, given how much he built up the struggle he had over suppressing this part of him. I would have thought there'd be something about, now that I'm free to be me, et cetera, et cetera. So I'm not going to fault him for not bringing it up like it was necessary, because it never really was. But again, I was just curious why he didn't. Let's see. No One Nowhere. He left out the context of being a time traveler from 1980s Brooklyn. Yeah, like I say, aside from the size of his feet, which I just couldn't not ignore, yeah, his fashion choices were interesting. But yeah, I don't know. Spud Gun, Scribe Light Privilege. He is the living embodiment of it. He's been given 2 shots at it. I don't know. I mean, it's not a bingo square, but I mean, he earned the sports scholarship, the first one, right? And by his skill and or reputation, he was offered the second one. So it wasn't a result of it just being handed to him out of whole cloth. He actually had to do something to get there. So I don't think that counts as privilege. I mean, ridiculously good luck on the second one, certainly, but presumably it was an artifact of his talent, or at least his projected talent. Let's see. Did he, though? Well, I mean, he is white, so it's really hard to tell, I don't know. Kiefer Dam. I know it's already circled, but didn't he make something about his sexual orientation for no reason? I mean, again, the toxic masculinity and or his sexual orientation somehow being the reason why he did all of these things, right? I mean, I could see behavioral problems coming out of hating himself and everything, but theft, stealing from his parents to pay for an abortion, assault, treating people lousy all the time or something, doing drugs and so on. It's way too long a list to say, I wasn't doing it, that was my internal struggle. Like, yeah, no. Let's see. Lexi Mads, he got 2 scholarships. I know. Yeah. I mean, talk about, winning the lottery. Completely squanders his talent and his opportunity to go to New York. 3 days he lasted in New York before he gave up on a sports scholarship to New York City. And then just out of the blue, he gets a call from another college, and then he takes it. He didn't talk about how well he did at the college or what he did. I mean, well, he apparently decided to rob a Walmart and assault someone in the process while he had this. Yeah, 2 bites at the apple, and he spurned them both. It's actually kind of amazing. Humble Clay, according to ESPN stats, he only played 1 game at Quincy. He squandered both scholarships. Yeah. So, yeah, this guy had everything coming his way, and he completely destroyed himself. Prony Maloney says, did I miss your comment? Well, if you're asking, I probably did. Scribelight, would him choosing sport for the financial gain, even though he hated, loosely fall into wage gap? Very loosely. I mean, he did bring up what... Oh, it's a bingo square. Oh, okay. He did bring up salaries for the basketball players. And at least by implication, he did go along with the abortion on the worry about his basketball career. Okay, chat. And this will probably be the last one I'll dwell on. All right. Does all of that constitute circling wage gap? I mean, wage gap is kind of a specific thing, but all right. So if you think that wage gap is justified in the aggregate enough to do a bingo, put a 1 in the chat. If you do not think so, put a 2. And if you put a 2, it's no, sign of fault or anything to Prony Maloney's argument. It's not a bad argument. but I'm on the fence. So 1 for yes, 2 for no. I got a no, 2, 2, 2 yes, 2, 2, 2, 2. Yeah, the twos are overwhelming the ones. And I wasn't trying to play it down, but I got to say, like I say, I'm on the fence. So yeah, I don't think that quite counts as a wage gap. That details his motivation, certainly. And at the age of 7 and his career and everything else kind of, again, puts the lie to the, I did this because I was having an internal struggle thing. Yeah. So not a bad argument, but I'm going to have to decline on that one. And you only get to vote once, Full Metal Joker. I see you. It's not a secret ballot. Okay. Well, guys, I think that's where we're going to be. 1 bingo and, just very close to others. I don't really see anything else that makes a whole lot of sense. Sales pitch, no. Diversity, equity, inclusion. No, he never really talked about that. Outside of feeling out of place, and now he feels more, etc., involved. Microaggressions and conscious bias, not really. He didn't really bring up like interactions with people, other people outside for who he was or how he acted insofar as his, true nature. Privilege, patriarchy, no. Wage gap. And yeah. Oh, yeah. Don't forget to circle the whole card. Yes, that's true. All right. There we go. That'll be the last act, circling the whole card. And for officialdom, there you go. Yes, this was a WTF because the often visited but never justified crux of his presentation was toxic masculinity, which had absolutely nothing to do with his life story. His life story was personal choices fueled potentially by self-hatred, but was not a matter of masculinity. I'm sorry. Actually, I'm not sorry. Sorry, not sorry. Right, guys? Girls, people. Oh, God, I'm so toxically masculine. With that, everyone, I'm going to call it here. Thank you so much for joining me. Thank you guys so much for your attendance, your participation, your argumentation, and your generosity. Remember, if you do share out these streams before or after or otherwise, please be sure to tag me on Twitter so I know that you've done so I can thank you personally, because I really do appreciate that. Another note for the future, as of the week of the 24th, so the episode of TEDx on the 26th of August, I'll be moving to a 6 p.m. Pacific, 9 p.m. Eastern time slot as an experiment to see if people enjoy that better than the midday stuff. I do it on Thursdays at this time of day because of the show at the night, Lords of the Night at night, and because of work stuff. So I'll be moving to a different time slot at the end of the month. But, oh, wait, before I... last second donation. Thank you, Devil Fruit Zero, for the bye-bye, Dogcat Fox. Bye-bye, Dogcat Fox.
Wow-wee! Wow! Wow!
Thank you, Devil Fruit. Appreciate it. Everyone, if you'd like to hear more from me or Satsu 2 Cents, you can find the two of us tonight on this channel at 6 p.m. Pacific, 9 p.m. Eastern for The Lords of the Night, where Satsu and I will go over the news of the day, news stories you submit, what we've been up to on the internet, and then your questions and comments. Everyone, once again, thank you for joining me. Thank you so much for your generosity. I really do appreciate you guys. Enjoy the rest of your Thursday. I hope you are all safe and well. If you're not well, please get well soon, and I'll see you on the next one. Take care. Bye-bye. Hi, Lexi Mads. In my world, privilege is circled. It's a privilege to get a damn scholarship. Throw it away, get another one, throw it away. Is that just a privilege, or is that just stupidity?